Hello, hello.
Wee!
Oh.
She's back.
That was new.
I was excited.
Oh. I thought you were trying to make a ghost sound.
Oh.
But that was... I like that it was an excited woo. Maybe it was a happy ghost.
Woo!
Perfect. Nailed it. I'm back. Hi, guys. It's me again.
Welcome back. I'm so excited for this episode, and I'm excited that you're on the
Me?
episode with me.
Me too. As if I was going to let you do an episode like this without me. No thanks.
It's also very heavy history, so I was like, Caitlin, pull up.
Precisely why. That's exactly what I was just going to say. As if I was going to let you talk about history without me. Today, we're going to talk about history. We're going to talk about the devil. We're going to talk about...
Pop culture.
The UK. We're going to talk about pop culture. And pop culture is really what inspired this episode, because for those of you who live under a rock, the last season, I was going to say the new season, but the last season of Stranger Things is coming out. And Jamie and I, we got really into Stranger Things, as everyone did.
Oh, yeah.
I laugh, but as if it wasn't like a cultural phenomenon for a long time.
Yeah.
But it's coming to an end. And I wonder if we'll find out what's going on with our close personal friend.
Oh, is this Sean Astin? He was in Halifax
for those of
recently.
you
I didn't see him.
Well, he's not,
he didn't call me.
Not stuck in the upside down? Oh,
I was working, he was working, we didn't have time to like grab coffee or anything, but
he probably knew that. Yeah. For those of you who don't understand that, one time Jamie and I saw him at a Comic-Con, and
once.
Now we're best friends. Yeah, literally one time.
Yep.
And we formed an emotional bond, is what happened. And now we're buddies, you know?
Miss you. Love you. Let's hang out, Sean.
Love you, Sean. Yeah, call us.
And I'm so excited for this episode. I know you and I watched all of the seasons of Stranger Things. The last season it came out. I have since rewatched it 3 other times. So
I'm going to need to rewatch it because I haven't watched it since we finished the last season.
Yeah.
And it's been a minute.
It's usually like once a year I'm like, I'm going to watch them all. And then I do, and I notice something different that makes me cry. And I'm like, ah. You also...
Jamie and I...
Sorry, I was just going to say, you should rewatch it before the next one comes out. You don't realize how tiny they were in season 1.
I know,
like
they're
10.
little babies. Yeah. And now they're really body grounds and mother.
And now you get the perspective of seeing these children go through what they're going through at such a young age. As a mom, that's probably going to make it worse for you. Being like, what if that was your kid?
Oh, my heart was just like... But all that to say...
We're excited.
Droning on about... Yeah, we're pumped. And, like I said, that's what inspired us to talk about our topic today. So, let's jump into the Hellfire Club.
I'm Kate.
And I'm Jane, and this is Creeps and Coffee,
a show where we talk about the dark parts of the world around us.
Cryptids, conspiracies, things that go bump in the night.
And the crimes behind the scariest creatures of all, humans.
Join us as we take a look at the stories sure to give you the creeps.
Pull up a seat, grab a coffee,
and let's have a chat.
Hellfire!
The Hellfire Club. Sounds intense. You may have heard the name of this club before, either from an interest in stuff like this, which is why you listen to podcasts like ours. It could be from Stranger Things. It could be a real big Eddie fan, which, who isn't?
Smash.
You...
What?
Ooh, who said that?
Not me.
You could be a Marvel fan.
Yup.
We're gonna talk about all this stuff later, but the origins of the Hellfire Club are really where all of this cool stuff starts, which makes sense because it's the origins. But the original Hellfire Club is this group of debaucherous and occultist males who really were not on the outskirts of society, were more high society, but were on the outskirts based on their interests. So it started in this satirical way that it's quickly spiraled into this secret society that is so fascinating. So with secret societies, I think what should be said before I even start talking about history here is that they're a secret. So we, on the outskirts, we have no way of really knowing what went on behind closed doors. And that leads to a lot of fairy tales and folklore and legends coming out of groups that are very exclusive. Think about like the Illuminati and how fast that has spiraled in greater society is like what we think it could possibly be. Look at us talking about Freemasons. Jamie and I have several episodes talking just about what we think Freemasons could be doing. Look at the Order of the Pug. We don't know, right? So I think what's important to point out is that with the Hellfire Club, there are a significant amount of legends, and we'll touch on those for sure, but there is a real story to it. It is a real group of real individuals who were doing real things. So we're going to start with the real story before the legends took over.
Amazing.
And that brings us to early 1700s England. So, perfect. Jamie beamed us in. We're ready. So the first Hellfire Club emerged in London around 1718, 1720, somewhere in there, which was during the reign of King George the First. So to put it in perspective, super old, absolutely. This was a time in society when the Church of England had enormous influence, socially, morally, all the things, right? So there's, even if you're not big into history, and I won't jump into the history of royalty in England because holy fuck, we'll be here
whole
forever.
Other episode.
But even if you're not super into history, you know, generally speaking, that the church was very, very powerful. And if the church didn't like something, it was a big no-go. But if the church did support you, it was a big deal. And you got your way. And there was a lot of back and forth between the church, the royal families, everything going on. There was a lot of imbalances of power, which caused a lot of disturbances. But at this point, this is where we're starting to see the Enlightenment happen. So the upper classes were enjoying a lot of new wealth, a lot of leisure from trade, from the empire itself, and a lot of intellectuals were beginning to question religion and question the authority of the church, which is where we get into the Enlightenment part that I mentioned. So you had a class of these clever, powerful, but bored young men who you could consider these well-educated skeptics who enjoyed starting to push the boundaries and started mocking hypocrisy, which is exactly where the idea for the Hellfire Club was born. So if you look at the very first Hellfire Club, we see, again, around 1718 to 1721, we see it founded by a man named Philip, the Duke of Wharton. So the Duke of Wharton was a nobleman, obviously with his title of Duke. He was a writer and he was a politician. He was very smart, very intelligent, very reckless. He was notoriously quite witty and sarcastic and kind of pushed the buttons of aristocracy. And, fun fact, he was one of the youngest ever peers in the House of Lords, so that was kind of cool. But he founded what became known as the Hellfire Club as a kind of satirical gentleman society. So again,
which I like that.
Pointing out the hypocrisy of society at the time. Which, is a very, very specific group of individuals who would have appreciated that. And it definitely caught on quite quickly. So Wharton's version, the original Hellfire Club, wasn't originally quote-unquote satanic or occultist. It was a parody of religion. It was essentially this secret circle for people who wanted to mock the church's hypocrisy, who wanted to celebrate wittiness and sarcasm, and for people who wanted to kind of have that blasphemous humor that they couldn't necessarily do in the general public. Because the church, again, being as powerful as it was, came down hard on blasphemy and anyone who spoke against the church. So to have a group like this of like-minded individuals who just wanted to poke fun and mock religious ceremonies had to be done in a private quarters. But they would hold these mock religious ceremonies. They would pretend to worship pagan gods as opposed to the Catholic God. Or they would stage dinners with ironic themes. Like one very popular one was the Feast of the Damned.
Ooh.
Which I think is hilarious. But they were just throwing these dinner parties just to be shitheads. Like that was the whole point. So
boys being boys.
Exactly. So these meetings took place in taverns, in private houses, and sometimes in the Duke of Wharton's own home. But obviously that's not always possible. But they would do it in these private arrangements. A lot of these members included aristocrats. Every time I say aristocrats, I say aristocats. Because I used to love that movie so much. So sorry. That was a side note. But there's aristocrats, not cats, military men, and intellectuals who wanted to prove that they had freedom of thought. Wharton, of course, because I always have to throw this in wherever I can, was also involved in Freemasonry, which also played a big role in the club's use of ritual and secrecy in their meetings. So he knew and wholly understood what it was to run a secret society or a secret club and do it effectively, while still being looked at as a positive member of society, right? It wasn't like this creepy group of people. It was just like a Freemason meeting. They refer to themselves jokingly as monks or the Brothers of St. Francis.
The Brothers of Satan.
Yeah. So yeah, obviously they weren't going around going, we're going to the Hellfire Club.
Yeah.
That's what they called themselves. Obviously,
Me too.
the government at the time, and especially the church, did not find them as funny as they found themselves. And like I said, rumors start to spread, legends start to come about based on speculative comments here and there when you're not invited to be in the club. So there were rumors going around of lewd and profane acts happening at these club meetings. So in 1721, King George I outlawed the Hellfire Club, calling it a scandal to religion and good manners, which is the most English aristocracy thing I've ever heard.
Whatever.
The Duke of Wharton did not take this well, nor did his reputation take it well in greater society. So pretty much right after King George I outlawed the club, the Duke of Wharton fell into debt. He joined the Jacobite cause against the king. So he was like, fuck this guy. He was stripped of all honors. His lordship was taken away. And he died young in poverty in 1731. But just because he passed away didn't mean that the Hellfire Club went anywhere. Before we do anything more, I do want to talk a little bit more about the Duke of Wharton, because he was kind of a child prodigy when it came to everything that he was doing. And by the time he was 18, he was already very famous around England for his eloquence and his wit. So he had what a lot of contemporaries referred to as, quote, a genius for contradiction. So he was fundamentally politically radical from day one. And he was one of the first free thinkers who helped bring along the Enlightenment. So I think it's important to mention that he was a huge figure in all of this. Not only was he the founder of this Hellfire Club, but he was also a major figure in the movement that started questioning the church. It was an act of political rebellion that was disguised as this joke group, which was really hard to do at the time. So it's very cool. So in the 1710s-ish, Freemasonry was obviously still quite new in Britain, but it took those Enlightenment ideals and kind of started to mix with the ritual secrecy and ancient symbolism, especially coming from the UK, where there's a significantly more history to it compared to where we are. There was a lot more opportunity to tie in social commentary. So the Duke of Wharton joined the movement in his early years. And in 1723, he became the Grand Master of the Premier Grand Lodge of England. And that made him one of the most powerful Freemasons of his time. So what's interesting about him, however, is that he used those Masonic ideas irreverently. So he kind of turned Freemasonry upside down and started to take these solemn virtues that Freemasonry was all about, doing all of these things, still standing up for what you believe in, but adding wine and laughter and heresy and just having a good time with it.
Get drunk and party with prostitutes.
So the original Hellfire Club, like I said before, they were calling themselves monks. They were mocking these pagan rituals. They were having these big banquets. And they were just kind of taking the piss out of society, out of religion, which again really tied into the political side of England at the time. So yeah, like I said, things went downhill for him despite being such a big figure at the time, which is a quite a shame, because that's taking away a lot of power and a lot of hope for people who were free thinkers at the time. Because if you're cracking down on one of the biggest purveyors of enlightenment, what's that to say for people who don't have power, right? So it was very disheartening at the time. However, obviously he was not the only person who felt that way. So we see a rebirth of the Hellfire Club a few decades later. And that comes from Sir Francis Dashwood, who was another super witty, super sarcastic, worldly aristocrat who took Wharton's idea, but expanded it into a more elaborate and secretive and almost hedonistic society. So Wharton's version was satirical, it was scandalous, it was like a big fuck you to the church and to the king.
But
whereas Dashwood's
then it changes a little bit.
Yeah, so we see the first change with Dashwood's, and this was full-on libertine theater. Like, they were doing mock rituals in monk robes. They had women dressed as nuns who they were performing lavish sexual escapades with. Yes. They had philosophical discussions among members of parliament and intellectuals. And they had their motto. So their motto was "Fais ce que tu voudras," which is "do what thou wilt." This motto was taken from a French writer named François Rabelais, and it perfectly captured the club's philosophy, right? There was pleasure, there was wit, there was acts of freedom.
That was also used by Aleister Crowley later on.
Correct, so that's what I was just going to say.
Yeah.
So, where...
I pop in like, I know that one, I know that name.
Wait a second. That line was later adopted by Aleister Crowley, who, in case you don't know, was an occultist.
big guy in our
not just
field.
an occultist, but like, yeah, but like pretty
He came
top
up
guy
during a
in that
paranormal
field.
conference I attended.
Of course he did. I'm also so bummed that I didn't get to go to that.
It was very cool. Not to brag.
But, yeah.
But it was awesome. You should have been there.
So, Sir Francis Dashwood's club was the most famous version of the Hellfire Club. Similarly to Freemasonry, there were little offshoots of the club that would pop up in other areas, but Dashwood's Hellfire Club really was what we know today as the iconic Hellfire Club.
Yeah, because there was more than one.
Absolutely. Again, like Freemasonry, there was different, like, sects.
Because didn't you say before we started there was one that's more messed up than the other ones?
Oh, I'm gonna get to that one.
Yeah. I want to hear about
Sure
that one.
I'm excited to talk about that one. Officially, they didn't call it the Hellfire Club. Sir Dashwood called it the Order of the Friars of St. Francis of Wycombe.
Sure.
But somewhere along the line, it became known as the Hellfire Club. So for this particular sect of the Hellfire Club, the members met at a place called Medmenham Abbey, which was along the Thames near Marlow, England. Later meetings also took place in the West Wycombe Caves, which was a network of tunnels that Sir Francis Dashwood had excavated. And these tunnels were said to symbolize a descent into hell.
The Hellfire Caves. Sam and Colby went there once.
There you go.
YouTubers. That's the only reason I know that.
A lot of prominent men of the time were rumored to be a part of it, similarly, again, to Freemasonry. Obviously, Sir Francis Dashwood himself was the founder of the club, so clearly he was a part of it. There was John Wilkes, who was a radical politician and journalist, not to be confused with John Wilkes Booth, who was the man who assassinated.
I was going to say, wait a minute. Why do I know that
Not
name?
the same guy.
Okay. This guy's been busy.
There was Thomas Potter, who was the son of the Archbishop of Canterbury, and possibly Benjamin Franklin.
Oh.
So Ben Franklin was a friend of Sir Francis Dashwood's, and he was a frequent guest in England, which at the time, traitor, what are we talking about here? But obviously his direct involvement could never be proven, and it's very debated among, I was going to say among scholars. I don't know if there's any Hellfire Club scholars, but...
Us.
Yeah. Among people like us, it's heavily debated. Like I said, the gatherings were said to include these mock religious ceremonies, blasphemous parodies of these monks' rituals. There was lavish feasts, there was a lot of wine, and there was a lot of sexual escapades.
Beer!
With nuns. Yeah, exactly. Everything you would think now of, like, the ultimate boys' club, just picture it with, like, a little sprinkle of religious undertones.
Man cave.
Oh my god.
Get out your porn and chicken wings.
I love that.
Going to the Hellfire Man caves.
We're going to the Wycombe Caves. All of their discussions were said to be around politics, philosophy, this freedom of thought, mixed with a lot of satire surrounding the church and the state, which stays very true to the original Hellfire Club from the Duke of Wharton.
The church hated that.
This club lasted a little bit longer. The king obviously was not around at that point to kind of put his foot down on heretics and, I mean...
Witches!
There was other stuff going on with that. They weren't worried about the Hellfire Club this time. It just kind of faded by the 1760s, especially after other scandals and political pressure increased. Like I said, if I went into every scandal in British history, we'd be here for a really long time. But just know that things were not good between church and state and the people of England. Interestingly, if we skip forward to now, the caves and the abbey still exist.
Oh, yeah.
Like Jamie said, there's lots of YouTubers that go, and the West Wycombe Caves are a tourist attraction now.
I want to go.
I'd go for sure.
Let me go and do the Estes method down there.
Oh, absolutely not. You think you're blindfolding me in a cave? No thanks. So, the club's reputation at that point is when it evolved into legend. And that's what we hear about now. We see these places that are tourist attractions that have all of this history and this lore built up around them. And like all legends, part of it is truth, but part of it is also exaggeration. And especially around this time, anything that had anything to do with the occult, anything that had any semblance of gothic nature to it, got blown way out of proportion, right? So, Jamie kind of alluded to this earlier, but I'm going to talk about one of the offshoots of the Hellfire Club, which was particularly the most interesting to me, and was weirdly enough also the first one that I knew about, and that's the Irish Hellfire Club.
Amazing.
So, like I said, the Duke of Wharton started the Hellfire Club somewhere between 1718 and 1721. The technical original one started around the 1740s. In between that time, Ireland was like, I'm doing that. So, the Irish Hellfire Club took the already scandalous English version and turned it into that gothic horror level wild. So the story is, the Irish Hellfire Club was founded around 1735 in Dublin, Ireland, by the first Earl of Ross, named Richard Parsons. And he was a known eccentric, which is a fancy way of saying the town weirdo. He was a prankster and a Freemason.
Of course.
Shocker. Shocker. This Irish branch became infamous. It took the inspiration from the original groups and became infamous for mixing debauchery, blasphemy, and occult rituals. So, in Dublin, just outside of Dublin, there was a hunting lodge on a place called Montpellier Hill. And this is where the members would meet. So not quite a hell cave or a descent into hellfire, but still a meeting place for them.
Yeah.
And the building was said to have been constructed using stones from an ancient passage grave, which, according to legend, and if you know anything about Ireland, there's a lot of legend, this supposedly cursed the site. Today, that hunting lodge still partially stands. It's a ruined stone structure, but locally, it's just called the Hellfire Club. So this club was made up of some of Dublin's most powerful men. Again, similarly to the other sects of the Hellfire Club. Some notable members included Richard Parsons, the Earl of Ross, like I said, the founder of this particular sect. Thomas Buck Whaley, who was a notorious gambler and adventurer. And with a name like that...
I want to be an adventurer. Can I put that on my resume?
Absolutely. I want to be a notorious gambler.
I saw on one of these articles it said, the artist and satirist? Can I put that on my resume? I want to be a satirist.
I think that sounds
known for being
incredible.
satirical. Girl, sign me up.
Done.
I do that for free.
I do that on this show for nothing. But there was also James Worsdale, who was an artist and playwright. So there was a good range of individuals. There was aristocracy, there was
Aristotle?
artists, there was... Yeah. Aristotle, crazily, was in Ireland.
Oh.
Centuries after his existence.
I actually didn't know that.
The alleged activities, because again, we weren't there, no one who was really there will ever be able to fully tell us what was going on. But allegedly their activities included heavy drinking, gambling, and orgies.
Good Friday night!
Yeah, hell yeah. A lot of mock religious rituals and black masses. Again, these feasts that mock pagan gods, mocking the monasteries. Taking it up a step, though, is when we get to animal sacrifices.
Oh.
Sometimes rumored to be worse, potentially human sacrifices, though it should be noted that that is almost 100% confirmed to be just folklore.
Fun and games and maybe murder.
Exactly. And perhaps most surprisingly, and perhaps what people associate with the Hellfire Club the most based on pop culture, is summoning the devil. So this is where we get to one of the biggest legends from the Irish Hellfire Club, but also one of the most, I don't want to say common, but a sort of a theme in Irish folklore. And that's a legend of the Devil's Visit. So legend has it that during one stormy night at the Hellfire Club on Montpellier Hill, a stranger joined a card game that the Hellfire Club was having. Somebody dropped a card and obviously bent down to pick it up. And as he bent down, he noticed that the stranger didn't have a human foot. He had a cloven hoof instead of a foot. Obviously,
That's crazy.
freaked the fuck out because what the hell is that? And at that moment, as he realized what was going on and came to draw attention to the fact that this was some sort of devil or demonic creature, the stranger vanished in a flash of fire and brimstone, leaving behind the smell of sulfur and a burned mark on the table. And that story became a major part of Dublin's ghost lore that was told for centuries and is still a major ghost story. And like I said, it's kind of a routine thing in Irish folklore.
Insane.
So it's that story that is actually what I heard the first time that introduced me to the Hellfire Club. So Astonishing Legends, a couple years ago, my favorite podcast, for those of you who have not heard me yap on about it, Astonishing Legends did an episode called Loftus Hall. And when talking about Loftus Hall, they brought up a very, very similar story to this. So Loftus Hall, also in Ireland, sits on the Hook Peninsula in County Wexford. The Devil's Visit in Loftus Hall is one of the most infamous stories about this. It was a castle, essentially. But it dates the late 18th century, so around the 1760s, 70s-ish. So basically a generation or so after the Hellfire Club would have been active. So the legend of Loftus Hall, to briefly give you the summary, if you want more in-depth, we can always talk about it, or you can go listen to Astonishing Legends. I'm always happy to plug their show because I love them. But again, the legend here goes that a mysterious stranger showed up at the door during a storm one dark and rainy night and was welcomed in by the Loftus family, and they decided to play a card game in their parlor. During this card game, Lady Anne Tottenham, who was the lady of the house, dropped a card, and when she bent down to pick it up, she saw that the stranger had a cloven hoof in place of a foot. When she realized this, she screamed, she panicked, she brought attention to it. The stranger then vanished through the ceiling in a burst of flame, leaving behind supposed scorch marks that could never be scrubbed away. It was said that after this circumstance, Lady Anne was said to have gone mad and confined to the tapestry room of the hall until her death. So the story is almost identical to that of the Hellfire Club, but the locations, the individuals, and the timelines are what differ. So, yeah, the Hellfire Club, he didn't vanish through the roof, he just vanished. He didn't leave scorch marks, he left sulfur.
Yeah.
So it's essentially believed that the two legends are kind of variants of the same folktale, which again is one of Ireland's oldest ghost motifs. So it's one of those circumstances where storytellers, and the Irish culture has a lot of storytelling, And I feel the need to clarify, because I used to have a student who, anytime I said storytelling or told her that something she said was a story, she would go, "It's not a story, it's the truth." And I want to remind people that stories can be true, and stories come from a place of truth.
Yeah.
I taught kindergarten, so understandable why she had that sort of disconnect. But I think it's important, an important reminder that storytelling does not have to be fake. There is always an origin for something. So folklorists take that storytelling ability and take those general themes and are able to adapt it to a lot of different famous locations or circumstances in history. And it kind of served as a warning against blasphemy and excess, which fits very well for the Hellfire Club's reputation. They were against aristocracy and the church and having these meaningless things, right? So it fits for them. It fits as a statement against the rich for the Loftus.
They would have loved anarchy and Reddit nowadays.
Oh, God. It became this gothic moral tale about pride and temptation, or like playing with dark forces. So it really was a statement, and it's seen in other stories too, in other locations across not just Ireland but across Britain. So this idea of like a cloven-hoofed stranger is surprisingly well documented, and it kind of connects to how people viewed the elite as individuals who were playing with the devil. In this story and in the Hellfire Club, it's seen quite literally, right? They're seen playing with the devil, literally playing a card game. But it's this statement, this like societal statement of they're playing with fire. They are taking a chance with the amount of power and influence that they have, right? So this story now is kind of just used as a tourist attraction for these locations. Loftus Hall ended up becoming one of Ireland's most haunted sites. They did ghost tours there until recently, I think until COVID, I want to say. And then we're struggling to find staff. And then the Hellfire Club Lodge on Montpelier Hill, like I said, is a very common ghost hunting location too. So these stories and the Hellfire Club itself are often linked together in Irish folklore as the devil's favorite haunts. So the Hellfire Club in Ireland was clearly a little bit darker. If you look at sort of the modern influence of it now, it's still quite talked about. So I should wrap it up before I get to this point. The aftermath of the Hellfire Club at that lodge, in the 1740s, the lodge was partially destroyed by a fire.
I was going to say, why did it go away? Yeah.
Yeah, so allegedly this fire was not from the devil disappearing after a card game.
Yeah,
it was allegedly caused by members themselves, accidentally during a drunken night.
Well, yeah.
Which tracks. But some people say it was some kind of divine punishment, like the Lord striking down on them for being blasphemous.
Somebody forgot to blow out the candles because they were wasted. Come on.
1,000%. Someone took a torch and was like, "Look what I can do with fire."
Do a backflip.
Yeah. Afterwards, after the lodge partially burnt down, meetings continued for a little bit at Ashtown Lodge, which was nearby, but by the late 18th century, the Irish Hellfire Club had just kind of faded away.
What?
Similarly to the Hellfire Club in Britain. The ruins of the Hellfire Club on Montpelier Hill, like I said, are still a popular ghost tour site. They're still a popular hiking spot in Ireland. Supposedly, locals still tell stories of hearing screams, seeing shadows and strange lights around Montpelier Hill. And it's kind of just a symbol now of rebellion and fascination with the supernatural. particularly for Ireland, who have a strong story connecting to the supernatural, which is interesting that it's kind of more deeply occultish in Ireland than it was in the original Hellfire Club. Again, historians are pretty on the same page with the fact that a lot of these stories are embellished in legend. Folklore has a way of kind of spiraling into these big, a lot more significant, more important ideals, especially when you can look back and find symbolism in things that they didn't know about at the time. There's also, at the time, newspapers were exaggerating what was going on because it was out of the norm, right? So there was warning of satanic behavior, similarly to how we talked in the Salem Witch Trials episode. Anything that was deemed different was satanic or occult or just evil and should be looked down upon to save you from this sort of moral decay. So a lot of embellishment also comes from
They said that about Dungeons and Dragons too.
Exactly. In truth, the club was probably more just about wine and gambling and kind of shocking, sticking it to the people, sticking it to the man, more than actual devil worship.
Which is
but
fine by me.
the fact that it's brought up, totally fine by me. But the fact that it was such a significant part is very relevant to how the Hellfire Club was portrayed up to now. There's a lot of myths with the ghostly visitors, with potential curses, with these infernal deals that were potentially being made with the devil. And that's really what made the Irish sect so significant. And that's my history.
I had questions for you.
Please.
Your spiel is up?
I'm done.
Okay.
I told you. I'm killing it.
Well, first of all, I just want funny anecdote time. When I was doing research for it, I don't know if we looked at the same articles, but there was one article that I was looking at, and I was like, what words, what are we doing? One of them, it says...
Love that.
I don't even know how to say it. Cocking a snook to polite society.
Who?
Cocking a snook? A snook?
The fuck did you just say to me?
Okay, I was hoping you'd know what that term is.
Absolutely not. Cocking a snook?
S-N-O-O-K.
Cocking like C-O-C-K-I-N or C-A-U-L?
C-O. C-O-C-K?
Hold on. Let me... What? I'm gonna Google it.
Because I'm assuming it's an old-timey insult. Cocking a snoot. Or snook.
Cocking a snook mean. Will Google know?
Google goes, what are you talking about?
What the fuck? Cocking a snook is a British idiom that means openly showing disrespect, mockery, or defiance towards someone or something.
I'm cocking a snook to Trump.
The phrase comes from an old-fashioned gesture. You put your thumb to your nose, spread your fingers, and wiggle them. This thing.
I've seen
This
that
is cocking a
before.
snook. Yeah.
I'm cocking a snook. That's funny. Okay. I also was wondering if you knew what... I'm just going to read the sentence because I don't... The Hellfire Club's aristocratic membership of rakes, roustabouts, and ne'er-do-wells were more interested in drinking, gambling, and fornicating and sticking two fingers up the religious establishment. What are rakes, roustabouts, and ne'er-do-wells?
Ne'er-do-wells?
Ne'er-do-wells. What are those?
It's basically just shitheads.
Oh, awesome. My friends.
So if you think about the word ne'er-do-well. It's literally like the abbreviation of never do wells. Yeah.
Cool.
Like they're just shitheads, essentially.
All right.
Yeah.
I also was wondering, did they ever, was the reason they call it like hellfire because of like the eternal fires in hell. Like, do we know the exact origins?
No, so that's the thing. From what I can tell, I think it is just kind of that mockery of like the church.
Like, other people saying you're gonna burn in hell for that, and they go, ha, woo!
Yeah, exactly. Like, well, yeah, you guys are going to heaven supposedly. Fine, we'll hang out in hell.
Okay.
But there's no direct record. And again, they weren't calling themselves the Hellfire Club, right? It became, they had their specific names, like the Order of St. Francis or whatever. So that it just kind of became like the nickname for their club.
Yeah. I was, on one of the things I was reading, it said that there was, like, alleged distant ties to a different elite society known as the Order of the Second Circle. I don't know if you know much about that. I don't know much about that, but I do think that maybe that's one of the reasons it sort of got, like, mythologized. Because if it's put in line with other elite societies and secret societies, of course people are going to build it up.
Exactly. And that's kind of what I was alluding to before, right? Of like, again, I'm going to talk about Freemasons again, but look at Freemasonry, look at the Illuminati again. Anything that has any level of secrecy is compared to other secret societies. And then it becomes, okay, well, now we don't know anything about any of these. What if they're all connected? What if they're all doing these scary things, right?
Yeah. Thank you. And then I am not actually going to read all of this because I'm lazy, but I saw a thing. It says in contemporary life, there's a thing called the Phoenix Society. Apparently that's like an iteration you could consider of a Hellfire Club.
Sure.
And I'm like, sure. I mean, it's not called Hellfire Club, it's called Phoenix Society, but sure.
Yeah, that seems like a different thing, but...
but I guess it's comparable, so sure.
Sure.
And of course, I want to mention a little bit of the paranormal stuff with the Hellfire Caves. Because there are a couple of different stories about ghosts and hauntings and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
You've got the regular, never thought I'd say this, you have the regular amount of paranormal activity with the poltergeists throwing stones at you, making you hear sounds, you feel like someone's behind you, footsteps sound like they're like crunching through the gravel when no one's there.
See, I don't like that.
There's also a shocker, another story about a lady in white.
In the cave?
Yeah, this one, I think it's just a legend, because it also doesn't seem super realistic, but there's a lady in white legend about it for a woman named Suki, or Susan. She was a young woman, and apparently she was pretty, and she wanted to, like, marry into society, find a rich man. She supposedly received a message from a rich local aristocrat that she wanted to marry, and she was supposed to wear her best white dress as a wedding gown, and when she got there, she realized the note was a fake, and that a couple of boys from the village were waiting there, and they were being mean to her and throwing rocks and stones at her.
Why are they all throwing rocks at each other?
I don't know. But apparently...
Why are we throwing rocks?
One of them threw a rock too hard and knocked her unconscious, and it scared them, and supposedly she died. I don't know, concussion, I don't know.
Blunt force trauma.
But many people say they've seen a girl in a white dress wandering through the west side passageways. Sure.
Don't like that.
Nope. Yeah. Lots of drinking, orgies, yada yada yada. Some people say
weekend.
some people say they see the ghost of Paul Whitehead, the former steward of Hellfire Club. Some people say they hear chanting.
Hate that.
Yeah, that one I'm like, don't do that to me.
I don't know why I've got such a thing against chanting.
I always, whenever I listen to like music with like chanting or like anything that's like a scary movie where you hear like all of these voices coming, like, together. Yeah, that scares me. It makes me feel...
Yeah, I don't want
or,
that.
if you've ever, like, heard those things where it's, like, a bunch of people whispering all at once. No.
Hard pass.
Anyway.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, the Hellfire Caves are great. They apparently used the cave's entrance in the Beetlejuice movie. It was in Horrible Histories. It was in a drama series, Little
Horrible
Door.
Histories is a fantastic show.
I've never watched it. I don't think, unless you made me watch it.
I don't think I did, because I didn't think you would like it at the time.
Probably correct. And then they were also in an episode of Most Haunted at an overnight vigil.
Yes.
And then, as of course, Caitlin mentioned earlier, and I was quite shocked to hear about, the Hellfire Club is in Marvel.
Yeah.
More specifically, it's in Earth 616, multiverse, okay? And
Correct.
it involves the X-Men and mutants and stuff. And it's basically like the exact same thing in 18th century England, a social club for the elite, wealthy, blah, blah, blah. The only difference is that there's mutants involved, and they've got, like,
There's mutants.
a black queen or white bishop, black knight, white knight. Membership is supposedly hereditary.
Nailed it.
Yep. And it's mentioned in a lot of the X-Men comics. I don't think we've seen it on screen, or at least not in any of the ones that I've seen.
I don't think so.
I believe Emma Frost was the White Queen at one point of the Hellfire Trading Company, something like that.
Oh.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Shinobi Shaw. Oh, after he was resurrected, my bad.
So sorry.
So on and so forth. We're not going to get into all of the Marvel stuff, because I more so want to talk about Stranger Things.
Stranger Things.
The reason we ever thought of this or even found this stuff out was Stranger Things. In season 4, there's a big, like, the first half of the season is involving Hellfire Club, which in that is just a D&D club. It's made by Eddie Munson, the freak, and I think he named it after the Hellfire Club,
yes.
literally.
Correct.
And, I got the t-shirt. And on that note, D&D has also created a collaboration with Stranger Things called Welcome to Hellfire. I want it so bad.
I feel like I'm fortunate. How much is it?
If you want the physical copy, it's like $60. If you want the virtual copy, it's like $20.
Do you want that for Christmas instead of a Sims pack?
Yeah.
Okay.
Will you play it with me?
Yeah.
Guys, we're making history right now. Oh my god.
I know.
I will play that with you, because I saw it and I literally screamed, and I think I sent her a voice memo because I was like, oh my god, look at it. Because I love D&D. I'll be honest, Stranger Things, I think, brought me into that world, because before I was just like, yeah, D&D, yeah, it sounds familiar, whatever. And then I started playing it, and I've done a couple of different campaigns, and I love it so much, and I love it.
Unfortunately, I think I will also love it.
I do too. I think you're gonna get so nerded out. You're gonna be like, this is so lame. Wait, roll me a 7 on persuasion. Hold on.
And honestly, I think that's why I've held off on it for so long, because I already get made fun of for so much.
Because, Caitlin, the only downside is the math. You like storytelling. You like creating characters. You love The Sims.
I love creating. Exactly.
You love acting and improv.
I know.
And you, what we learned, you love Lord of the Rings, so you love fantasy.
Exactly.
So we're gonna convert her. I think it'd be fun if we ran a D&D campaign one-shot and made it an episode. I think that would be fun. Patreon. We're gonna do that. That would be so fun. Anyway. Yeah, that was it. That was all I had to say.
So, all that to say, the Hellfire Club was not just a cool D&D campaign on Stranger Things, not just a cool sect of Marvel, but it was a genuine club based on social commentary and dudes being shitheads. Levi agrees.
Yeah.
And it's things like that in history that I think these things are still important in society because it shows that kind of stick it to the man attitude and makes it a more accessible mindset to the greater society. Like we said, it started in the Enlightenment. It was the first time people were really questioning, should there be a separation of church and state? And look where that led us. So creating groups like that where you're able to become free thinkers, even on the darker side of freedom of thought, I think is a really interesting part of society and of history. And yeah, I think it's a shame that groups like that kind of dwindled out, but it's interesting to see, like you said, there are some sort of modern revivals coming up. So
I think that's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoy that even our world is kind of crazy, and
Exactly.
there's a lot of powers in this world that I disagree with, and I think that it's nice that there are still people willing to come together and stick it to the man, no matter the year, no matter who's in charge.
Exactly.
And I appreciate that, and I support it, and there should be more of it, and also what a lovely revival that it has had.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm sure there's a bunch of little, like, grade 7s who are trying to start Hellfire Clubs at their schools. Like, go you. Go express your freedom of speech.
Yeah. Exactly.
Mm.
Yeah. I think that's sweet. Well, if you would like to share your perspective on the Hellfire Club, on what you think went on at those meetings, what you think a Hellfire Club in today's world would look like, you can share your thoughts and comments with us at our email, which is creepsandcoffee@gmail.com. You can leave us a comment or send us a message over on our Twitter or our Instagram at creepsandcoffee. Or if you're really interested and you want to see our D&D campaign, you can check out our Patreon, which is patreon.com/creepsandcoffee. There you can find exclusive episodes of our show. You get a little behind the scenes look at what our recording process is. Fais ce que tu veux.
Well, thanks for listening. Go break social norms.
Bye.
Viva Las Vegas!
Creeps and Coffee is produced and edited by us, Kate and Jane.
Our theme music is Stuck in a Hole by Dated.
For more information on where to find them, check out the link in our show notes. And to connect with us, follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Creeps and Coffee.